Hi everybody, PJ here with the legendary announcer Peter Graves, the man responsible for my Olympic career, the man who hired me for 2002 Salt Lake City. Thank you, Peter. I owe you 10% of everything.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's a pleasure. I don't suspect I'll collect right away.
Probably not.
But I had no intention to. You were hired for one reason, and that was you were talented, you were good, and it's proven to be the case. A wise move.
You are a sweetie. Now listen, I would like to know from your perspective, what makes a great announcer?
I think it's very esoteric what makes a great announcer on many levels. I mean, you might think simplistically that it might be a booming voice or great enthusiasm, and those can be part of it. But I think it's more complex than that, especially as I get older and value all these different experiences. Appreciation, I think, is important. A great empathy for the athletes, and then I think the ability to inspire the crowd, to educate the crowd, and hopefully inspire young kids who might be watching, or anybody for that matter, to maybe get out and do something, to move, and then of course you have an informative element to it, that you have to be tell your scores, whatever sport you are, your time. Ski racing is one of the sports that I do. So I think those kinds of things are very important. But it's a melding together of a variety of different things. And it's been none of us, I think, started out trying to do this as a career. But it's turned out for some of us very lucky, very fortunate, and I think a great blessing in our lives.
So tell me, if you can, you've got lots of stories, as we all do, but maybe your most interesting, your favorite, the most challenging, an announcing story that stands out for you.
You know, I think there are two, but because you've had to make me pick, I will forego the opening and closing ceremonies in Salt Lake, which were very profound. My first Olympics, 1980 in Lake Placid, it was a cross-country ski race, the 30K at Mount Van Hovenberg, and it was to be the closest cross-country ski race in history. And I got to call that race with Bill Fleming from ABC Sports. I was a young buck, 22 years old, without a lot of TV experience, and it was frankly overwhelming to be around the likes of Jim McKay and all the big stars of ABC Sports. But I got a chance to call the closest cross-country ski race in history, and that was very amazing. Johan Mieto, Thomas Vosberg, crossing the finish line after 30 kilometers of grueling skiing, probably by, that much, 1/100th of a second, the closest race in history.
And that one stands out for you for sure.
That one stands out for me. It was also one of the early memories of the sport. And they don't even time cross-country skiing that closely anymore. They go down to 1/10 of a second, so it was it was a great memory. I'll treasure that. And I'll treasure one other thing, if I may. I treasure the sportsmanship that I saw between those two guys. Brutal antagonists, one from Finland, one from Sweden, each of them wanting to win that gold medal. And they were so gracious. Johan Mieto, the big giant Finn, slumped in the snow after the race, wiped tears from his eyes. Vosberg came across, bettered his time, and Mieto got up, his incredibly big, tall, lanky frame, and went over and congratulated Vosberg with a big hug. It was a moment of sport and human drama that I'll never forget.
So some people might ask you boxer or briefs, but I want to know.
Well, you can ask.
I can ask. But the question on everybody's mind, well, mine, is great voices. Are they born or are they trained?
A little bit of both. If I was sort of taking your question and using it to mentor young people, I think your voice changes over time, and there are environmental conditions that change it. Now I've been announcing 40 years. It's really quite stunning for me. It's passed by in a blink of an eye. It helps if you're blessed with a distinctive voice. That's wonderful. If you're blessed with the endurance of your voice, you have to treat your voice well too, which includes, as we were talking about, not necessarily being able to go to all those wonderful parties you want to go to where the disco beat is ramped up. It's challenging. So neighborhood. So there was something there that captivated me about announcing, and the fact that I've been able to do it has been, one of the great blessings of my life.
That's great. Thanks so much for talking to me, Peter Graves.
You're welcome.